You got 24 hours, 48 hours notice before something seriously big is going to go down. You think to yourself, have I got time to do one last important shopping trip? What would you do? What would you get? You'd seriously have to good think about gaps in your preps, something you've probably been considering to get for a while but didn't really have the money. But check this, if you've got 24 to 48 hours notice before there's going to be a grid down event or something like that, what would you get? And it's an awesome little experiment to do about this sort of stuff, because we're really interested to see what you guys think of in the comments, okay? And if this video is successful enough, I might dedicate an entire live stream to it so we can really get some good interactions, explore possible scenarios and all of that sort of thing. All right, so okay, you've got sound advice, heads up, a couple of days before everything goes down. Just say, for argument's sake, the power is going to go off. You don't know if it's going to be off for a week, 10 weeks, a year. Okay, can you imagine what would happen to society with that? And you've got a heads up and you think, right, it doesn't matter, cash isn't going to be valid after a short period of time, so go for it. What would you get? So the first thing to sort of have in your mindset, should this actually happen, is when you go to places that you frequent on a regular basis, like DIY stores, supermarkets, petrol stations, okay, you get to know the frequencies of when you go, the times of the week, the times of the day, when that certain place is going to be busy or empty, okay? So you already know what to expect about how many people are in that store. So for argument's sake, you pull into your supermarket, you've got your vehicle there, and you notice that it's unusually very, very busy for that time of day. Okay, maybe that's a good indicator to not bother. Forget that option, okay? Because if other people are affiliated to this information and they're in there stocking up, it's probably not a good idea to go into there and put yourself, your family, or your vehicle or your kit at risk. All right, so common sense, intuition, what do you feel? Okay, if it feels bad, go somewhere else. Okay, that would be my advice if that actually happened. Okay, so think about things that you don't usually think about when you are prepping. Okay, what about places like here in the UK we've got B&Q. In America, I believe they call that sort of variant Lowe's and that sort of thing. So we're talking DIY, do-it-yourself stuff. Okay, moving forward, should this collapse absolutely happen, have you got enough things like fixings, screws, nuts and bolts if you plan to secure your property? Okay, would you think about getting sheets of timber to put over your windows and doors, that sort of thing? Or barricade your shed so you don't want no one going in there and taking all of your stuff, and you can put a lock on it so only you can get in and out. All of these sorts of things. Okay, power tools. Okay, power tools would be great because they would give you a massive advantage about making modifications to your property going into a grid down situation, possibly a prolonged period of time. Okay, so obviously you're going to need to make sure that you can power those. Okay, so if the grid goes down, it's no good having all of these stuff. But if you've got things like solar generators, solar chargers, and you're pretty much off grid, absolutely that will be a huge advantage. It will save lots of time, lots of energy, so they will be really good. You can do that, and or hand tools, hammers, saws, screwdrivers, all of these things. Do you think you've got enough to cover as many different bases as possible? So another thing which some people say, cordless nail guns. They could be very useful for all sorts of things, okay? And also they can be modified to do something other than their bog standard function. All right, so then you think about supermarkets and food. So you're going to need to think on your feet. If you have got like 48 hours notice, you're probably going to have time to go into your prep store and write a list of things that you think, I should have done this a few weeks ago. I've only got X amount of cans of that food left. I definitely need to get loads of that. So you can make your own list, okay? Something like that would be very, very useful, because you can try and do it from memory, go into the store, get loads of stuff, only to come back and go, damn, I forgot to get X, Y, and Z. If you would have stopped, took a bit of time, prepared, made a list, the chances are you're not going to forget some possibly really important things moving ahead. And you could literally use your imagination of what you can put in there. Fuel's another one, okay? Most of us have access to vehicles. How much fuel have you got stored? How long would you be able to run your vehicle in a grid down situation, okay? Now, that is a real hot topic of debate, and there's going to be pros and cons about vehicles in an SHTF scenario, okay? Vehicles, they can be seen, they can be heard, they can be ambushed, etc. So you really do have to make that decision of what you need to do about fuel. Also, if you do have fuel and you get stuff and you store it, that would be an excellent thing to barter and trade with, okay? So someone, you're off grid and they've got a tractor and they've just run out of diesel. They come to you and you've got like 100 litres of diesel in jerry cans. You're going to be quids in about trading that to someone who really needs it, okay? So that would be a thing to do. And the same sort of observations should be adhered to when I said earlier about going to a supermarket, for example, and it's unusually busy and you've got a bad feeling. Absolutely adopt the same mindset when you approach petrol stations. If it's really busy, it looks a bit scrappy inside the shop bit, go to another one. It is just not worth putting yourself at risk if you need to do stuff like that, okay? Also, we've got friends across the pond, but not just America, around the world, where they are, by law, allowed to carry firearms, okay? My advice, if any of you guys are watching from America, if and when this situation actually unfolds, extra ammo. Hell yeah, stock up on as much as you possibly can, okay? Even if you think you've got enough, always get more. Because one day, going forward into time, you're going to be glad that you've got that extra 1,000 rounds of 5.56 or something like that, and some 9mm for your pistols. That will absolutely pay dividends as, you know, we move forward. Also, other things, I mentioned fuel and vehicles. What about spare parts for your car, or your wagon, or your truck, or your van, whatever it is that you roll around in, okay? Have you got things like the basics? So spare belts, spare filters, some oil, maybe some spare plugs. If you want to sort of extend that a bit, you know, you're thinking of starter motors, alternators, etc. You know, check when the cam belt was done last, because the last thing you want to do is to have everything ready, and a month into a great big collapse, your cam belt goes, okay? Absolutely useless. It will shred the engine if you're not careful, and you could be in serious trouble by overseeing that. So it sort of makes sense to make sure that your vehicle's up to scratch, okay? Make sure it's ready to rock and roll for as long as you could, should something like this happen, okay? Also, medications. Now, how many of you watching right now have a big stock of basics? So we're talking paracetamol, ibuprofen, things like that, plasters, bandages, wound dressings, etc. for extreme blood loss. Have you got all of that in your kit? Pills and potions and creams, you know, absolutely essential. And one of my personal go-tos, which I recommend anyone get, especially when we're talking the SHTF, you really need to try your best to get Neosporin. Neosporin is amazing. It's an antibiotic cream. So you get any external wounds to prevent infection, that stuff will absolutely work, and it stores way past its shelf life, okay? Just don't store it in a greenhouse or in the loft, okay? Same thing as applies to food, cool, dark place, away from damp and from odours. And that Neosporin, that cream, will absolutely save your ass one day, because it is so easy to be out there, everything's gone to pot, and you get an infection. If you don't sort that infection out, that could be the end of you. It's that simple. Don't forget, there's not going to be hospitals or doctors around, okay? You need to think about this stuff in advance. Further on, you're thinking of other things like vitamins, okay? In the winter time, we don't get enough sunlight, as we're thankfully getting right now for the first time in ages. You need to make sure that your immune system's on point. So going into winter time, you need to make sure you've got at least vitamin D. If you're going to use vitamin D, you need to make sure you've got vitamin K2 as well. Without vitamin K2, the vitamin D will not work as efficiently as it should, okay? So if you didn't know that, congratulations, you just learned something. Pass it on. We all need to learn this stuff, okay? All sorts of things like dental care, okay? So all sorts of things like antibiotics and picks and stuff. If you have to do a tooth extraction, good luck to you. Make sure you've got a good clean pair of pliers and lots of alcohol. It will help. And if you want to go old school, you can actually tie string or cord around the tooth, slam the door, yank that thing out, okay? But again, we're looking into preventing infections. So you need to have stuff like salt water to make sure that that socket does not get infected. That will absolutely be beyond a nightmare, okay? So eye care, saline, okay? If you've got eye wash, great, fantastic. You can also use that to irrigate and flush out wounds if you get cut badly, etc. So make sure that you do something like eye bandages, some saline at least, a bare minimum, okay? Now, this is a hot topic up for debate. Should this event happen? Cash. Yeah, okay, cash. So I would personally get as much, the maximum limit that you could out of your cash point, because it's not going to be useful over time. Now, some people have really deep dived and looked into this. Should there be an event which literally changes overnight, cash will still be valid, but you're only looking for a period of around 3 days. After 3 days, so some of these people have stipulated, cash will be absolutely useless, okay? So if you do have a big lump of cash, it all goes bad. My advice is to exchange that cash for useful items as fast as you possibly can. 3 days or thereabouts, it's probably going to be worthless, and you have just wasted an opportunity to convert fiat paper currency into really useful kit and equipment, okay? Other things like rope and cordage, absolutely these things are going to be invaluable for all sorts of things, okay? So you've got a great big tree that's come down on your property, you cut it up, it's too heavy, you can put rope around it and tow it out the way. Cordage, as we know, has a multiple use function, so good idea to check up on your stocks to see how much you've got, because once that cordage runs out or it gets lost or damaged, that's it. Trying to get by without any sort of rope or cordage will be difficult. And yes, of course, you can go down the road of getting natural cordage like brambles and roots, etc. That's great. But it all takes time, it all takes energy. If you've got it already, you haven't got to waste that time and energy. You're set. Pest control. Okay, pests are going to be an issue if you're bugging out away from your location, especially if you're in a rural location. Mice will be an issue, and if you haven't got your food preps and stuff really secure, the mice will get in there. There'll be germs, disease, and you're going to be in big trouble, okay? So think about how you're going to control pests. Air rifles, catapults, get some practice. Get used to doing snares and traps, okay? They will be needed as we go forward. Pet food as well. Some of you guys and girls have pets, cats, dogs, etc. Always make sure that they've got enough to get you through at least 3 months, okay? After that, it's going to be down to you to provide them meat, because, you know, cats and dogs are meat eaters, and, you know, if you don't hunt and provide for them, they're going to wither away, and it's not going to be a nice thing. You're going to lose a guard on your watch, because, as we know, cats and dogs have excellent hearing, and they are brilliant little alarm indicators, okay? What about some of you guys in America, in hurricane areas, okay? What happens? An SHTF happens with a hurricane. What do we see? We see people panic buying, going to the store, getting batteries, torches, water, blankets, all that sort of stuff, okay? Make sure that you double check how many batteries that you've got. So now we're thinking ahead, and we're thinking of tradable items, right? Whether you drink or smoke, it's irrelevant. Get some alcohol, get some tobacco, okay? I would advise getting the cheapest you possibly can to get more bang for your buck, okay? If you can give someone, say, 75 cls or a whole litre of vodka or something like that, literally that's going to be exchangeable for so many important things which really could get you and your family out of a jam. The same with tobacco, okay? Just get a mixture, you know, cigarettes, roll-in tobacco, that sort of thing, but like get the cheapest you possibly can. Coffee. How many people are pretty much addicted to caffeine from coffee, okay? Do yourself a favour, try an experiment. Don't drink coffee for a week. Let me know how you get on, okay? If you don't have coffee, get some anyway, because there's lots of people who do, and people will literally pull your arm off to get coffee. They really, really would, because everyone's going to be tired, everyone's going to want their edge to get ahead, etc. And without coffee, they're going to be struggling. So coffee's going to be a good one. What about things like candles? Okay, lots of people probably have candles under the sink, under the stairs, in the cupboard somewhere. Okay, really, really important. And they're great for using for fire lighting as well. So you light a candle, you can use that flame to light your fire and save your gas on your lighter. A little tip: if you've got loads of candles, pre-light all of the wicks so they're all black and charred. When that happens, when you do have to use a match or lighter, it's going to take minimal fuel to get that flame going on that candle, okay? And it sounds picky, it sounds minuscule, but we are thinking proper collapse, thinking forward. You're going to be running out of loads of gas needlessly, with your lighters, because you didn't plan and prepare ahead. Char your wicks, store them back away. Lighter gas as well. It's great having loads of lighters, but what happens when all of the gas runs out? They're pretty much useless, okay? And at the moment, lighter gas is very affordable. You can probably pick it up in Poundland here in the UK, or in America, you've probably got Dollar Tree. They'll probably run at $1 or £1 a can, and you can fill up loads of lighters with that one can. So you don't have to go crazy, just get a few. And, you know, you can make sure that your little lighters, which are going to be important, getting fires going and all of that. Gas bottle refills. Now, of course, the power's gone out, okay? The grid's gone down. So no gas, no electricity, no running water. Having the capabilities to cook, to heat your home, etc. Gas bottles, if you've got any empties, get them filled up, okay? You don't want to be going into a long-term situation with just half of a bottle of gas and 4 empty bottles, okay? Make sure that they're topped up. It's going to give you a fighting chance of cooking and keeping warm. What else is there? We're thinking way ahead now, and most of us are doing this already. Fruit and vegetable seeds, okay? Because when your tins, when your packets run out, and they will do eventually, what are you going to do? You won't be able to go to the supermarket or the fruit and veg shop. They just won't be available at that moment in time moving forward. So you need to make sure that you've got loads of those as well. It's the same as always, keeping a cool, dark place, and some people actually freeze seeds, okay, vegetable seeds. If you do that, make sure that they're vacuum sealed in a foil packet to prevent freezer damage, and it will elongate the period of your seeds going forward. New boots. You're probably going to be on your feet for a long period of time, and if you've only got one pair of boots and the soles are half gone already, when they finally run out, it's going to dawn on you, damn, why don't I get a few extra pairs of brand new boots? I can't walk. So everything's going to change for you from that moment moving forward. You're going to be spending time and energy and effort looking for a pair of boots, or trying to think of a way to repair them. Yes, we've all seen little videos of people out in Africa getting car tyres, cutting shapes out and literally getting them stuck onto their boots just so they can carry on being mobile. You don't really want to be in that situation, providing you've planned ahead, all right? Hygiene products, especially for the ladies out there, okay? Every month, we know what happens, and we really need to consider hygiene and infection as a very serious, important thing to do, okay? But not just females, we're talking us guys and girls as well. I tend to use a salt stick, okay? It's called Pit Rock. No, I'm not endorsed by them. I've been using it for a donkey's years. One stick, if you have one wash a day, will last you 8 years, and it'll cost £8. So £1 a year to prevent infection, rubs and sores under your pits and down at your bits. it's very, very worthwhile doing, okay? I mean, how many cans of Lynx Africa is it going to need over 1 year? It's ridiculous. You won't be able to move them around if you're bugging out. It's going to take up valuable space in your household. One little tiny bit of that pit rock, the salt stick, absolutely awesome. Just wet your armpits, rub it on there, let it dry naturally. It kills off bacteria and smell. It's really good. Moving forward, like we went back to the hardware stores, cable ties. Now, who hasn't used cable ties before? Who hasn't realised that they are so freaking useful? You would not believe. And if you really wanted to, you can get the reusable ones, so you don't have to waste them, okay? A spare can opener. Can you imagine having like hundreds of tins of baked beans and sausages and whatever it is that you've got in your food preps, only to realise that you haven't got the ring pull and you don't know what happened to that can opener? Man, you can pick one up for less than £1. It's always good making sure that you can at least get into your tins easily without having to risk injury or damaging a knife, etc. Bleach is very good. All you need is a drop of water, a drop of bleach into 1 litre of water, and it kills lots of bacteria. Very, very important as you move forward for purifying water, keeping things clean and infection and disease free. Always good to have bleach. Doesn't matter what time of year this happens, consider insect repellent, okay? If you're out in the field, if you're bugging out, if you're on foot forever, if you haven't got this stuff, you are going to get absolutely plagued with all sorts of stuff. And yes, the possibilities of infection is very, very high indeed. Whilst we're on that note, maybe do some research of what plants that you can use and weeds to use to prepare to mitigate the risks of being bitten by insects. Bottled water, why not? I would. Don't forget, electricity goes down, the water goes down. Water is run by electricity via pump network all over the UK. No water. Without water, you brown bread pretty instantly. Herbs and spices, of course. Now, there is such a reality of food fatigue, all right? So all you've got is X, Y, and Z amounts of a certain tin food and packet food. If you can't alter the flavour and the taste of it, it's going to become very boring, not very nice. Lots of people I know who served that in combat when they lived on MREs, meals ready to eat, for like 6 months at a time. It's really, really demoralising, okay? Having anything to alter the flavour. And of course, we know herbs and spices are excellent for fixing all sorts of illness. When we look into the origins of pharmaceutical medicine, they will all stem from plant-based material, okay? They synthesize it, they add on side effects to keep you buying more and more and more of it. No, learn how to use herbs, and they're very easy to grow and very, very cheap. So I wanted to get this out there just to see what you guys thought about this scenario, okay? This is like action role play, all right? And it'd be really interesting to read your comments. And if lots of you comment, say you want this to go a lot deeper in a live stream for an hour and a half, let me know in the comments, and if there's enough of those, I will consider doing that on a live stream. So yeah, 24 to 48 hours notice, your last shop. What are you going to get? You guys take care, thanks for watching, and stay funky.